All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Steinman, and I'm here today to share strategies and to manage our anxiety during this pandemic. Um, we all need to remain mentally healthy and positive, and we can do that by finding silver linings. And I'm basically here to give you a pep talk because we are going to get through this together as a community. I really want to thank Emily Wilcox. She's the admin for the Studio City Sherman Oaks COVID-19 support group. And I'm really grateful that she asked me to join and speak with you today. So I want to start by letting you know that I'm not a psychologist, but I am, however, a very vocal mental health advocate. I'm a writer and an educator. I've taught kindergarten through sixth grade. I've even been the school librarian. I'm also a lead presenter for NAMI, which stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it's a grassroots organization. You can check it out online. It's NAMI.org, and it has wonderful free resources for everyone. And I am a lead presenter that goes in to middle schools and high schools and speaks to families about mental health warning signs and resources. In addition, I have a podcast that I'm very excited and proud of, and it's called Dear Family. And it's basically a love letter to our complicated families and finding mental wellness. And it came about because I wanted to cut the generational trauma from inheriting so many generations of mental health disorders in the past. I'm fortunate to not suffer from them, but many of my family members have. There's forced suicides, there's depression, there's bipolar, there's anxiety, there's OCD, there's drug addictions, and I wanted to cut that line. And so that's why I started this podcast, and I'd love for you to check it out. It has a lot of inspirational stories for people to listen to of others overcoming obstacles. So although I'm very comfortable interviewing my guests on my podcast, this is my very first Facebook Live video. So I'm a little bit nervous and a little bit anxious. But as you know, anything that you do that's new is anxiety provoking. And I think that's why this pandemic is so massively anxiety producing for all of us, because there are so many unknowns and it's new. It's a novel virus, right? And we're dealing with so much uncertainty. So, I am here because I want to talk about tips and strategies and silver linings because I think we need to remain positive. What I want you to also know is that, you're here today because you're part of a community and we're going to get through this together. And thank you for listening and joining. And if you have any questions, I'm going to do my best to answer them, but also feel free to maybe drop a note below where you're listening. I'm really curious what city you're listening from. And also if you have any silver linings that you want to share with us all. Okay, so by now we all understand that we need to flatten the curve from this virus, but we also need to flatten our emotional curve because fear, it's just as contagious and harmful as this novel virus because unbridled fear can cause contagious panic. So we've got to keep an eye on that and handle that through mental health. Now, if you're feeling scared or nervous or anxious or depressed or sad, you are not alone. Let's be honest. This feels as if like a God force or something in the universe came and took our earth and literally shook it, right? And when we least expected it and tilted us, and we're just all trying to figure out what this new normal is. And our loved ones, or if we ourselves are dealing with mental health issues, whether it's anxiety or OCD or depression, it's going to potentially be much more heightened right now. So we need to look out for each other. We also need to definitely keep our eye out for those that potentially could be suicidal, because if you are considering suicide or someone else is considering suicide, you need to act on it immediately. Call the 24-hour hotline. The number's 800-273-8255. And I say this all the time, but just by asking someone if they are considering suicide, you're not going to plant a seed in their mind. Okay, so let's look out for each other. Now, here's the good news. And I'm going to talk a lot about good news. Just like a virus can, be contagious, so can kindness and calmness and correct information. And that's what we need to remember. So a crisis like this, it's causing a lot of distress reactions. Like you may, for example, have trouble sleeping, or maybe you're feeling unsafe, or maybe you're feeling food insecure, or maybe you're behaving recklessly by potentially drinking too much or self-medicating, right? So we have to keep an eye on that, and also keep an eye on the ones we love, and check in with them. And it's really kind of sinking in for all of us that this is potentially not going to go away right away, right? So there's all these unknowns, and that is anxiety producing. It's a new normal, as I've said. But again, the good news is you don't have to be powerless. Now, you're part of a community, right? We are going to get through this together. And I think that, we are going to find some silver linings and come out of this on the other end better for it. We just, again, have to stay positive. Now, considering 1 in 5 people are dealing with mental health issues already, many of us and our loved ones are going to be challenged. So, it's normal for all of us to be feeling grief and loss over our routines and our inability to spend time with people we love. So me personally, I can say I had to cancel my daughter's trips back east to go look at colleges. My husband and I have to postpone our 20-year anniversary. School's closed, work's closed. What performances are closed, big things, small things. We're having to suddenly deal with this loss. That is normal to feel a little bit of grief, right? We're being told to social distance and socially isolate from the people we love. And that's hard too. So all of these feelings are normal, but there are silver linings, and we will get to those. And let's be honest, all these new words that we're learning, like flattening the curve and social distancing and sheltering in place and COVID-19, again, it's a new normal. It's very, just again, normal to feel this anxiety, but we will get through this. So how do we become, not paralyzed and frozen from anxiety? Well, we know that a little anxiety is normal, right? And it actually pushes us into action. It's when we become paralyzed or we practice harmful behaviors that it becomes dangerous. And I say this all the time, reach out for help if you need it. If you need help, there's telemedicine and teletherapy. There is no shame in it. In fact, you're being incredibly brave by asking, and it means you're fighting and you want to ask for help. But this is where strategies come into place, right? We need strategies and putting plans in place. Now, whether that is scheduling that weekly teletherapy appointment, or making sure you have all your medications, or doing things to increase your joy and your happiness, or scheduling nightly check-ins. Like, for example, Tonight, I'm scheduling a Zoom call with my family on the East Coast. Last night, we scheduled time with our friends. So maybe you schedule that in once a week. Maybe you're checking in on friends a few times a day. Think about that. That is part of a plan. Now, you also have the power and the control to do things, for example, washing your hands, social distancing. That's still in your power. Now, more than ever, a strategy that we all need to just keep in mind is getting a good night's sleep, eating regularly, staying hydrated, and exercising. Because by taking care of our body, we're better able to solve problems and manage our emotions, right? Which is going to boost our immunity. So if you're watching this live or eventually from a rebroadcast, I would love to know what type of exercise you're doing while you're sheltering in place, so we can get some good ideas. Maybe, you're starting your day by exercising. Maybe you're walking the dog. Maybe you're streaming some videos. Just give us some ideas of what you're doing. But we do know that, and comment below, but we do know that those endorphins that get pumped through our veins, that is not only good for our physical health, it's really good for our mental health. And again, the good news is there's so many things that are free that you can do now or tomorrow or whenever, but it's free. You can stream videos, you can watch weightlifting videos or meditate, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But as far as healthy eating, I think some of you are feeling a little bit food insecure already, which is why people are hoarding. But let's be honest, guys, society is not ending. Our markets are still going to be, operating. There's still drive-throughs, there's still delivery, right? And just because you're quarantined doesn't mean that you have to stop eating healthy. I know a lot of us at first went and bought like canned goods and rice and beans or things like that. But you should maybe be eating fruits and vegetables even more so, because we need those nutrients for our health. And what I just did recently was I just went and ordered a box of fruits and vegetables to be delivered weekly. So there's a lot of options out there. And I know a lot of you are not going to love this advice. It's hard for me as well. But if you're feeling extra anxious, you may want to consider at least stepping back from so much caffeine, because caffeine mimics that anxiety feeling of increased heart rate. So that's just something to think about. Now, another strategy, if you're feeling very anxious, is to put a plan in place and a schedule in place. Now, I know it's so strange how our calendars have suddenly been wiped, and I've only been home with my kids for about a week, and I'm already losing track of what day it is, right? So this is going to potentially be going on for months, right? If that's what it's looking like. So we need to wake up in the morning. If it's a Monday, get dressed like we're going to school or we're going to work, right? I think we also need to put a plan for cleaning in place. So, for example, my girls and my husband, we're all home. We're making so many dishes, and I'm not bringing anyone in from the outside to help clean. So we all are sharing responsibilities, and I've made a chart. I also think it's why it's important to plan your exercise and even your, playtime. Like, for example, like I talked about, we had a group dinner last night with 5 other families. We put that in our calendar. It's something to look forward to, and it's something we might end up doing every Friday night. So if you have a plan, you're not going to feel so aimless, and that's going to help boost your self-esteem and just make you feel better, right? And it's going to give you just this path to move forward. Now, here's something really interesting. We all need to do this. We all need to tackle something that is called the anxiety paradox. And that means that what you resist persists. So if you don't acknowledge that you're feeling anxious and you just keep pushing it down, whether it's through self-medication or just through social media, whatever it is that we're masking, it's going to come and explode. So face it head on. And we're going to talk a little more about more strategies, how you face it, because again, it will diminish when it's acknowledged. So don't push your feelings down. Acknowledge them, talk about them, reach out to friends. You can do this. Now, we don't want to bury our heads in the sand, but if you want to cut your anxiety, make sure to limit your internet and news consumption. Now, consider getting bulletins in the morning from the CDC, right, where we know that that is as factual as it gets. Meanwhile, our cable and our network news channels, they've never been doing brisker business because they understand the psychology that we feel like we need to keep checking in, right, with those breaking bulletins and breaking news. But it's not healthy. And I know me personally, I had to pull back. So instead, do things that you enjoy to kind of distract you, and you won't get into that pattern, right? Like listen to music, read a book, call a friend. Those are things that I think are healthier. Now, and many of us are feeling anxious about money, which is so normal right now, okay? Anxiety is worrying about the future. That's what anxiety is. When you're in the present moment, you're not feeling anxious, right? And it's normal to feel anxious about money because businesses are being forced to be closed. And we know the stock market hates uncertainty. But part of helping our mental health really is to develop kind of a sense of optimism and hope and faith. And we need to remind ourselves that our economy was strong to begin with. We don't know what the future holds, and this is where kindness comes in. We have to help people when and where we can. But thankfully, our government is stepping up to make sure people can't be evicted. They're freezing student loans. They're pushing our tax filing date to a later time. They're helping small and large businesses, right? We are going to get through this together. And as far as faith, I really do believe that as a collective human society, and we have incredible intelligence and ingenuity, and we're going to get over this hump. We really are. And we're going to come out the other side stronger. So during this time, loneliness is going to be a big factor, right? But social distancing does not have to mean social isolation or emotional isolation. So there's so many wonderful ways to stay in touch. For example, right now, I'm interacting with the community and it's amazing, right? We're video conferencing, we're texting, we're sending emails. There's, by the way, Zoom is free for people. There's Skype. There's so many opportunities to reach out, and you should reach out. And a perfect way for us all to deal with our minds racing and stopping anxiety is through meditation. Now, I know a lot of people don't like meditation because it takes practice, and a lot of people don't want to put that time in, but you can literally start with 2 minutes a day. And there's great apps like Calm or Headspace, or there's even podcasts or YouTube videos. And the point of meditation is to slow our brain waves, and that helps stop anxiety, right? Because again, we're being put into that present moment. Now, maybe you can't sit still, and that's just too much to ask of you. Well, do a moving meditation. Maybe that means walking. Maybe that means doing some sun salutations, right? Whatever it is that is going to slow your brain waves down and help you calm. And, I can't talk more about how amazing meditation is. Now, some people swear by doing mantras or saying mantras or doing daily affirmations. I have a friend, his name's Mikkel Bondesen, and he was actually my second guest on my Dear Family podcast. And he has so many great strategies to help with anxiety. But he's a successful businessman, but he's also an extreme athlete. He does Ironmans. He jumps out of airplanes. I mean, here's someone that really pushes himself. And yet he suffers from major panic attacks. And he swears that affirmations have saved him because it helps him, again, get through that anxiety. And he says things. So affirmation, you say it over and over and over to yourself until you come out the other side. He says things like, I am safe, or I can handle this, or this too shall pass, or, and I really like this one, the obstacle is the path. The obstacle is the path. And Mikkel swears that it's rewired his brain so that when anxious thoughts surface, he can move through them quicker. So try it. And I realize that this sounds so cliche, but I think it's important for us to hear it anyways, that behind every dark cloud is a silver lining. And it's during a crisis when we often see the best in people. And I believe if we focus on gratitude and the silver linings, our days, rather than going like this, we're going to have great days and we're going to find joy and we're going to be positive, right? And we need that, not just for our mental health, but again, to boost our immunity, right? So gratitude, it literally shifts our days. And there's so much to be grateful for, and we need to focus on that. And I'd love for you to share in the comments some silver linings that you may have noticed. But I'm going to talk about some of the ones that I think we all should keep in mind. So for every single toilet paper video where you see people are fighting over toilet paper on the internet, there are so many more countless acts of kindness happening left and right? And generosity of spirit from people. I just went on the Nextdoor site and I saw that one of our neighbors is a young woman. She works at the Trader Joe's in Echo Park, and she's offered to pick up deliveries and drop them off to seniors without charging them anything other than the cost of the items. It's things like that. It's things like kids starting GoFundMe pages for their elders. And what I love about right now, it's kind of like this reset button. And actually, that's something I forgot to share, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But it's this reset button to realize that maybe we all need to shift our way of thinking. Maybe this entire pandemic has happened for us to think differently. And we are finally realizing our elders, our seniors, they're treasures. We need to look out for them. And we're coming together as a community to understand how we're all interrelated. And there's just so much goodwill out there, and focus on that. And one of my favorite things that's happening right now is that our environment is getting a chance to breathe, right? NASA images are proving this. They're showing that air pollution has been cut drastically, and people in China, they're seeing blue skies for the first time in years. The canals in Venice have clear water where you can see fish, and dolphins are coming back, and swans are coming back, right? Our earth is getting this chance to breathe that it never would have had a chance to before. And, here's another, it's kind of funny, but it's true. We're finally finding out how many in-person meetings could really just be done through a virtual, online video chat, or maybe just an email, right? And when this is all said and done and it's over, we're going to learn how to work more efficiently, which means less air travel, less pollution. And we're going to shift our perspectives with what is really necessary. I think we're already doing that now. And here's another silver lining. And again, I would love for you, keep adding those silver linings so I can read them. I would love for you to share. So, but this is giving us a time and permission to slow down and take a breath, our own breath, right? Maybe that means you're binge watching a series that you wouldn't have had a chance to, like, for example, I highly recommend Cheer on Netflix. Or maybe it means you're getting to work on a creative project that you never would have done, like you're writing a book, or you're painting or drawing or learning an instrument. You're being given permission to do this. And that's really kind of an amazing thing. And we should be grateful for that. And YouTube has countless number of free lessons online. For example, my daughter just learned how to draw something incredible yesterday from a YouTube video. Just look at this time as a reset button for yourself. It's a mental health reset, and we're getting to connect with our own desires and our dreams. You're being given this permission. Take the time, figure it out. Now, this virus is also proving something that I think is important to remember. We are a global community, and we are interconnected. And I'm sure many of you have seen either that image or the video of all of the matches lined up in a row, and one match pulls down and the fire stops. And what that teaches us is that, we're, for the collective good, one person can make a difference, right? It's kind of reinstituted our sense of community, where it's not so much the me, it's more the we. And I think that's really an amazing silver lining. And another silver lining is that private citizens are stepping up like never before, and private companies. For example, the CEO of Zoom is giving their services for free to K through 12 schools, and PBS is creating great programming for kids to learn who are staying home. NBA players like Kevin Love and Zion Williamson are stepping up and generously covering the cost of wages for arena workers. So many retailers are setting hours for seniors, right? There's a lot of goodwill, and the bipartisanship is being put aside because we all realize we need to work together, and that's something we haven't seen in a while. And let's be honest, guys, another silver lining: society is still functioning. Okay, we're lucky where we live. We don't have a food shortage. The water is not going to get shut down. So, think about that. And, although we are turning on the news and seeing numbers go up daily, and, we have to remember eventually there is going to be a vaccine. And, I have to be factual because that's probably number one key. A vaccine may not be ready for another year, maybe not until mid-2021, but there's a lot of good medical news to focus on, and I'm going to just share a few of those. An overwhelming number of people who get sick end up going home and recovering. Like there was a woman, she was a 103-year-old grandmother in China, and she left the hospital. Several organizations across the globe are working on vaccines, and they're going to share their findings, and we're going to make this happen. And plasma from recovered patients who had COVID-19, they're being looked at to treat others infected by COVID-19. And there are heroes like Jennifer Haller, who is a Seattle mother of 2 teenage daughters, and she's already stepped up to volunteer to receive the experimental coronavirus vaccine. So it just gives me a lot of hope. Now, speaking of healthcare, some of the best medicine around for anxiety and stress is free, and that's laughter, that's pets, and that's nature. So we all know laughter just lifts our spirits. Go watch a comedy, find something to make you laugh. Our pets, well, what more do we need to say? There's nothing like snuggling with a dog. I think dogs and cats and whatever pets we have are the real winners of this right now, because they're getting their families are all home. And also nature. Guys, it's springtime. Go outside, enjoy that incredibly fresh air. It's fresher than it's ever been. Get in touch with your 5 senses. Listen to the birds. Look at the beautiful colors and the spring blossoms. When you're in touch with the moment and your senses, you are going to be present, which is going to help release that anxiety. Now, I want to take a question that somebody posed earlier on the Facebook site, and I think it's one we all will benefit from. And the question was, how will social isolation impact a child's emotional development, specifically an only child? So I asked my friend, he's a child psychologist, his name is Randy Gold, for some advice, and I'm going to share it with you. He basically said that social isolation in normal circumstances, so like if your kid is being left out on the playground or that kind of social isolation, that can cause a lot of problems like depression and anxiety. But this doesn't have to, because we are all in this together, and your only child, and this is good doesn't matter if you're only child, for yourself to know, we are all dealing with this. And he said, it's really important to leave space to have these conversations about feelings, and you can share your own. Obviously, you have to monitor what age your child is and how much information you're giving. But he really thinks that, continue to fill their time with activities and have them FaceTime friends, but this does not have to be a game changer for an only child or for anyone for that matter. And I have to say, in a really interesting way, I'm finding myself connecting with friends and family more than I was before. And again, shifting our way of thinking, maybe that will help fuel gratitude. So, I just want to end this by saying that we need to show not just our kids, but ourselves for that matter, that when we stay positive during such a negative situation, we are winning. Now, I'm giving you a pep talk because we need to hear it. You guys, this is our Great Depression experience. This is our World War II sacrifice and our victory garden. And I really do believe that we're going to emerge from this crisis stronger, more compassionate, and more empathetic, not just for our family, but for the world. And because laughter is the best medicine, I am reminded of a great quote that I saw floating around the internet that goes something like this. Our grandparents were asked to go to war and sacrifice in such scary times. We're being asked to stay home and sit on our couch. We can do this, right? I know we can. Now, remember, although we have to socially distance, you are not alone, and we're all in this together. And find faith in humanity and know we're resilient and we're intelligent beings, and we're putting our personal interests aside to come together for the better good. And just like our earth is doing, take a deep breath and take this opportunity to reset and find gratitude. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me at rightnowrachel.com. That's right with a W. And my podcast, Dear Family, is on all the platforms. I wish you love, happiness, good mental health, and good physical health. And take care of yourself and your families. Check in with one another. Stay informed. And let's flatten the curve. Thank you so much for watching.